Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other like-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Hey everybody, glad you could join me. This is going to be a really cool evening. I have an amazing author with me, and she's written, of course, an amazing book. I have Elaine Starling with me, and she's the Abundance Ambassador and is renowned as a TEDx international speaker, coach, trainer, and successful entrepreneur, and the host of the Abundance Journey Show, which you should look up and check out after we're done, of course. She has served on boards for several women's organizations, including Women Impacting Public Policy, Entrepreneurial Women, and Women in Consulting. And she has been published in a lot of international journals. She is an absolutely energy pumped up person, which is such a joy to have, especially at this time in the evening. I want to talk a little bit about her book. It's called 5 Steps to Activate Your Abundance. And it unlocks the life of abundance and fulfillment. And it provides practical tools and techniques for cultivating an abundant mindset, overcoming fears and limiting beliefs, and reconnecting to spirituality, all of which we talk about all the time. And with this book, readers will be able to take inspired action towards manifesting their goals and live a life of joy and self-empowerment. It has sections in it where you actually take part in what she's talking about, which makes it an amazing book to work with and to work through. And it's something I think that you can work through at different stages in your life and get different answers. So welcome to the show, Elaine.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Barbara. I have been looking forward to this so much because your energy is just contagious. And I know we're going to have the best conversation.
We are. And, I think what I loved about your book was the one thing that stood out that I resonated so 100% to. I jumped up and down and thought, I wonder if I can cut a bunch of this and put it onto my website. You talk about the mind being powerful, so much powerful than we think. And I've experienced putting out their thoughts and thinking positively about something going to happen. And it does. And it's amazing. And I don't think people really realize that it's a tool that they're given free, no charge, and very few people attempt to utilize it.
Yeah, I had a really amazing experience just a few months ago. I was in my kitchen doing dishes. And I was just musing over how, sometimes you've got a project and everything comes together so easily. It's just a snap, it's a breeze, it's no big deal. And then there's other times when you're working on something and it is a slog. It doesn't matter what you do, you hit problem after roadblock, after challenge, after issue, and it's just so frustrating. And I was kind of wondering, why does that happen? And I immediately felt and heard a very loud, forceful voice in my body that said, when you deny your power is denied to you.
Ooh.
When you acknowledge your power is shown to you. You are more powerful than you can imagine. And I immediately dried my hands and went and wrote it down. I'm like, denying my power? What am I doing? How am I denying my power? And I realized that often there are words I use that kind of diminish me, that undermine me. Things like I want to leaves me wanting. I try to is very trying. I need to makes me needy. So instead, I'm replacing those words with I choose to, I desire, I have decided to. It's much more taking charge of who I am and what I choose to create in my life and how I choose to feel about it. And the thing that I also found really powerful about that message that I received, you have to acknowledge your power before you know what your power is.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is. You just have to declare, this is what I'm doing. This is who I am. And it will unfold perfectly for you. You are shown your power.
That's true. And lots of times you're shown your power that you didn't realize you had. I have found when I especially with my website, when I put up something new, I sit back and I say, thank you for the abundance this is going to bring into me. Thank you for the abundance that is coming my way. Thank you. And and the other thing, when you do a lot of your stuff, it's thank you, thank you, thank you. Is there a reason it's threefold?
It's because I experience the divine as effervescent joy, just
Yeah.
over the top, happy, excited, delighted, silly, playful. They're always after me for being way too like business-like. They're going, come on, honey, lighten up. This whole life thing is supposed to be fun and
Yeah.
then entertaining. You should have fun with this. And I really want to embed my conversations with the divine with a great deal of gratitude. I discovered that the most powerful space for me to be in, and it's certainly the most creative space to operate from, is what I call grateful curiosity. I don't know what's coming. I
Yeah.
just know it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. It's kind of like you've walked into a room and there was a surprise party and there's all these presents for you and you don't know what's in the boxes. And it doesn't matter what order you open them in. You just get to be present and alert and tuned in so that you receive the blessings. And that makes all the difference in the world. But yes, I hire angels all the time, and angels are awesome because they are dirt cheap to hire. They work for thank yous. So
Ah,
I like to thank angels in advance. And my favorite thing to do is hire attitude adjustment angels for myself first, and then for everybody that I encounter throughout the day. And so it sounds like this. Angels, I'm so happy and grateful for all the many blessings you give me. I am hiring attitude adjustment angels for myself right now. And then for everybody else that I encounter or who is impacted by my work today, I want to make sure that I'm focused on all the beautiful blessings you are sending my way. And anything that might be an irritant or a distraction, either it's hysterically funny or I don't notice it at all. So thank you so much for keeping me in that space of grateful curiosity and wonder. And it works. It's
oh, geez,
amazing
yeah.
how well it works.
I have found that synchronicities are it is our synchronicities are one way that our connection with the universe, the divine, whatever, are ways of the universe letting us know we're on the right path. And when I moved down here, and I always tell people write them down because the more you acknowledge them, you anchor them in reality, and that means more will flow in that same channel. And so when I moved down to Tennessee, um, down means from Connecticut down here. Um, well, I was positive this was the right thing to do. It was like I need confirmation that this was the right thing because I'm all packed. I can move somewhere else if it's not. It's not a big deal. Well, expensive, but not a big deal. And so after I moved in, there were several things that I wanted. I wanted a fireplace. I wanted water, and I wanted a feeling of home. And so I've lived in the Northeast all my life. And so I got down here and everybody had a little garden and I was walking around just to see what everybody did because I had huge gardens where I used to live. And I noticed that behind me there was a stream that I hadn't noticed before. So I got my water in spite of the fact that it wasn't a body of, my son called it a drainage ditch. I call it a stream. Um, and so I then noticed that there's a cemetery here on the right behind my condo, right behind it. Um, and I went in and I was looking at it's an old one, 1800s and 1700s, and there was only one tombstone I could read the name off of, and I read the name, and I have a friend who does genealogy with me, and so I called her and I said, "Here's the guy's name. Here's the day he died and he was born. What can you get?" And she called me back 2 days later, and she said, "You're not going to believe this." And I said, "Oh, I'm pretty sure I will." And she said he had a sister named Hattie, and Hattie was married to a man named um, Aaron DeLong, an ancestor of mine.
Really?
I called
Wow.
I called my son and I said, "I'm more Southern than you are," and he said, "How so?" And I said, "I have kin buried in the backyard." And
That's
so it was
awesome.
kind of like the universe's way of saying, "Yeah, you belong here."
I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is fabulous. What a wonderful story. Yeah, we do get little signs all the time,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
we?
We do, and, the more we pay attention to what is being sent our way, the more we get. And, I tell people, it may start out as parking places you find or someone calling that you were thinking of or whatever, but whatever it is, if you acknowledge it, you enforce that channel and you let more things come. And
You
so
know, I have I'm sorry. I have a little story about this
okay.
because, nobody's perfect, right? I have my moments. And a few months ago, I was running some errands and I was driving my husband's truck. And it's kind of a large car. And so I'm always anxious backing
Yeah.
up because I don't want to hit anything. And spatial awareness and I are distant acquaintances at best. And so here I am in a busy parking lot and I'm slowly backing out, slowly backing out. And out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody going really, really fast through the parking lot. And I'm thinking, wow, that is not safe. And I'm backing up slowly, slowly, slowly. And somebody honked. And it sounded like they were right behind me. I didn't look because I went from happy, happy, joy, joy to pissed off in like a nanosecond, just
Yeah.
lost my stuff. And I'm ranting in my head. That person didn't just get dropped on their head as an infant, they were dribbled repeatedly. And I'm having so much fun with righteous indignation. And suddenly the divine goes, whoa, honey, time out.
Yeah.
No, we keep telling you that every single moment is designed to be a blessing for you.
Yes.
That little story that you're telling yourself doesn't sound like a blessing. So we want you to deliberately make up a story where somebody honking at you is actually a blessing. Make it up now. And I really had to think about it. I thought, well, maybe I was about to hit something. And they didn't have time to put their car in park, jump out, run around, knock on my window. Lady, watch out. You're going to hit something.
Yeah.
In that case, that was a huge blessing. Or maybe they had a different vantage point on my parking space and I didn't think I had enough room, but I stopped and I cranked on the wheel and I did squeeze out of the parking spot. So maybe it was more like a thumbs up. It's okay. You got this.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly got the real message. All these years, I've been the bad guy. I'm the one who's ignored the blessings that were there for me because I made up stories pretending that they weren't blessings. And I had
Oh,
the
yeah.
option to decide that it was a blessing and make up a story that turned it into a blessing. I'm the only one who can do that.
Yeah. And it's not hard.
No, it just requires a little bit of intentionality.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I was grocery shopping with a friend. And when I got out to the car, I realized that one of the bags was missing. And she said, "Well, you paid for it. Now what are you going to do? You're going to go in and complain?" And I said, "Whoever got it needs it more than I do. So, I can't write it off as charity, but I thought about it. But I think there's a way of finding the positive in any situation. I mean, I'm talking any situation, and it's not obvious all the time at the very beginning. But if you'll notice, a lot of people, especially with children who have passed, um, a lot of those people end up creating foundations to benefit other children who had the same illness or whatever. So it's it turns into a positive. You
Yeah.
make a point of putting something positive out there, and it's I guess for the last 20 years I've always looked for the positive, and sometimes I've had to really stretch.
Very true. It's funny. I was doing the 7-day mental diet. I don't know if you've ever heard of this exercise. It comes from the 1920s. And for 7 days, you ignore all negative stuff. Like you don't watch the news, you don't pay attention to, crises and all this stuff. You try not to listen to gossip, and you certainly don't say anything nasty about anybody.
Yeah,
7 days. And I'm trying to do this for 7 days. And without fail, I hear about some horrible
yeah.
accident somewhere, or I hear people arguing in the grocery store. It's just everywhere I go, there's not so positive stuff. And finally, I sat down and I'm journaling with the divine, and I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be positive here. You're not helping. What's up with this? And they said, "Darling."
Well, there's really there was just recently a plane in Toronto that landed upside down,
Yes,
and they're talking about all of the sad stuff and everything. Everybody walked away. Nobody was hurt. Isn't that a miracle?
it is a miracle. And the message that came through is, darling, we are guiding you and you are guiding us. So when you
Yeah.
witness something that you personally don't know how to fix, like the homeless situation, people who are starving, people who've lost their homes through some sort of horrible tragedy, we want you to imagine those people 2 energetic levels above where they are now. Right now, they're in the flames. We want you to see the phoenix. You don't know how they're going to get there. We just want you to envision them whole and healed and perfect, and send them love and blessings. We'll do the work.
Yeah.
We are guiding you, and you are guiding us to let us know where divine energy is most needed.
I think the problem that so many people have is that the divine will take care of it if you get out of the way. And sometimes you just feel like, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to make this better. Well, if you stand back, the divine will do a better job. That doesn't mean if somebody's stepping off the curve and a car's coming, you don't pull them back. I mean, you do. But for the most part, I know when 9/11 happened, I looked at my mother and I said, "What do? You can't send that many casseroles to people. How do we help? How do we take this situation and pour good energy into it?" So we took up collections and we sent stuff in, and we did a lot of strange, weird stuff. But we were I was close enough to 9/11, so we had ash, but not close enough to actually have felt it or seen it other than on TV. But it was a horrendous experience, and yet there was a purpose behind it that I don't think um, anybody figured on what it was. And in a way, I had the feeling that every single one who perished there had on some soul level volunteered to become a saint because of it. And that this was their celebration. They got their wings. I mean, how exciting that that many people got the fulfillment of their life at the same time. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was really interesting. I was asked a rhetorical question during my stroke. And I always say that I was incredibly blessed to have the stroke, because during my stroke, I got to have a conversation with the divine, with God.
Yeah.
And I asked all kinds of questions and got incredible information. And at one point, they asked me this rhetorical question. They said, okay, everything is love. The chair you're sitting is love. The computer you're on is love. You are love. The God of your understanding is love. So, how do you expand love when everything is already love? I was like, beats me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we decided to create human beings who don't think that everything is love. You experience contrast, the difference between what is wanted and what is not wanted. And that friction gives you the superpower of choice. You either step back in fear
Yeah.
and stay in your comfort zone, or you step forward with grateful curiosity and love, not knowing what to expect. And every time you step forward, you expand the divine. This is the expansion joint of God. This is how God expands, is through us and our willingness to be human beings. It's not designed to be easy, because I always say to my clients, we are weebles. We wobble, but we don't fall down. Okay.
Right.
And
Yeah.
everybody thinks, oh, well, I'm supposed to be in perfect alignment all the time. Not so, because life is designed to knock you off kilter. It's not about periodically going out of alignment. It's about reminding yourself, oh, I'm not in alignment. And now I'm going to use my tools to get back into alignment. I'm going to pray or meditate or intend or use Ho'oponopono or whatever really speaks to me to get back into that state of infinite divine grace. Because every time I shift back into alignment, it's that movement that really expands the divine. It's kind of like you're an incredible surfer and you love catching a wave. And sometimes it's a really big, gnarly wave that lasts for a long time. And other times it's kind of a short one that peters out. But it doesn't matter. You love surfing. So, of course, you've been human many times in the past, and you will be physical many times in the future.
Yeah.
This is the rock star place to be. This is where the magic happens.
That's true. And I think a lot of people will forget that. I forget who said it, but we are spirits on a human journey, not a human on a spiritual journey. So and so often think, to remind people that you're an avatar, you're a spirit in a human body experiencing the physical. Of course, you're going to have miserable times and sad times and happy times and joyful times, because that's the only way the spirit understands what that is. So welcome it and learn it fast so you can get on to the next catastrophic thing, because there's always something else coming. Um, it's just please understand that I know that you only think this moment and is the only moment there is, but oh my goodness, your spirit has been through so much and has a lot yet to go through. So it's not the end of the world.
No,
It's
this experience is actually kind of like the ultimate infomercial. But wait, there's more. There's more love. There's
yeah.
more consciousness. There's more spiritual awareness. There's more growth. There's more. There's more. There's so much more.
A lot of people say that the earth plane is is a prison, and we're suffering through whatever we need to do. I look upon it as an amusement park. And it's kind of like, okay, where do I find, the good stuff in this, and how can I laugh about it? Because as soon as you can laugh, you can heal. Just as
Yes.
soon. And
Absolutely. And it's really interesting. I decided several months ago that I'm no longer going to quote work, unquote. Because every time I think of the word work, it feels heavy. It feels like I have to. It feels like I have to, all by myself. I have to figure it out. I
yeah,
have to do it all. And it's just, it's heavy. It's a drag. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to play, quote, play
yeah,
instead of working. Because when I play, I get to, and I get to play with other people. I can invite them to join me. And I'm not taking it so seriously. I'm playing around with it. I'm noodling with it. I'm
yeah,
experimenting. I'm playing with it. And it's really interesting. There was some research done in the 1980s where they took two different groups of kids and they wanted to teach them the same thing. And one group, they taught using the traditional kind of schoolroom method. And the
Yeah.
other group, they taught through play. Well, it took the traditional school structure work type folks 30 times longer to learn
Oh,
than
wow.
the folks who learn through play. You're actually much more intelligent, more aware, more open to opportunities when you're willing to play. So just want to put that out there.
No, it's true. I taught special ed for 25 years. And when I discovered super learning with Vivaldi's Four Seasons, I thought, okay, I'll just play this in the background. And the principal came in and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "It's just background." And he said, and he looked and he said they were all focusing. I said they have longer concentration, they retain more, and they're able to utilize what they retain. And he said, "No way." And I said, "Way." And it was like, yes. I played with teaching because I loved it so much. Uh, and there was a while where I served in the pulpit for 5 years, and I played there too. Um, I had a telephone for once, and it wasn't connected to anything, but I had a bell in my hand that I could ring it. And in the middle of my whatever, I rang it and I picked it up and I said, "I'm getting to it. Just give me a chance. I'll tell you." And so I talked to the divine for the entire service, and they remember it.
I bet they do. I bet
If
they do.
if you play, you can impact people to a far greater degree. One time I handed out long strings to everybody, and I put them in the collection plate and handed them in out to everybody. And finally I said, "Okay, we're going to sit here for a while, and I want you to tie a knot for every blessing you have in your life." And just I'm going to talk for a while. You knot it up, and then when you're all done, tie the ends together and put it around your neck. And I said, "You feel down at any point in time in your life, you just start going over those knots and reminding yourself of all the magic you have in your life." And there was one man that, everybody, I said, "Can you volunteer some of your knots?" And people, volunteered beautiful things. And one man said, "I'm so grateful I didn't get AIDS last night." And I said, "And that's the end of that."
Yeah, there's so many things to be grateful for,
Oh,
and
yeah.
often we just take them for granted. But when we can embrace life with those gratitude goggles on, and everything we see is something to appreciate and celebrate, everything starts to shift. It really does.
Well, your book is 5 steps to
To
activate your
activate your
abundance.
abundance. Yeah.
So you're not just talking about money here. And money is the last thing on the list, to be perfectly honest with you. Money comes. You always get what you need, not necessarily what you want, but you always get what you need. And so when it comes to abundance, everybody wants greater abundance in their life, but they don't know how to get it, and it's so easy. So you
It
wanna
is.
explain your steps just a little bit so people can see where you're coming from?
Absolutely, because you can activate abundance anytime you want to. And I love doing this with other people when we're having a conversation. The first step is gratitude. Gratitude is the acorn of your abundance tree. Gratitude is the ignition switch to higher consciousness. Every single thing you want to experience in your life starts with gratitude. You want a great relationship? You have to be grateful for the connection. You want a promotion? You have to feel grateful that you have the job and grateful that your skills are really useful and valuable and make a difference. It all starts with gratitude. That's always step one. Step two is to acknowledge something you heard that was a bit of an aha for you. And, there's so many things that we've just been talking about here, Barbara. I'm hard pressed to pick just one, but one of the things that stuck with me was when you said we can't deliver enough casseroles for that. In response to 9/11, it's like,
Yeah.
I want to make a difference. I want to support people. How do I do that? And just acknowledging that drive that we feel
Oh,
as
yeah.
humans to connect with our humanity and support each other. Every time there's a disaster of any kind, we feel it. It ripples out to us. And if you feel it, it means you have an opportunity to make a difference for someone else. So thank you for illustrating that so beautifully for us. I want to acknowledge that. That's step 2. Step 3, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Well,
Mhm.
all of a sudden, you see how connected you are to everybody else because you're feeling their pain. It ripples in through you, that ability to empathize and experience what someone else is going through really helps to reduce their discomfort. You might not think that's true, and yet many hands make light work. So
Yeah.
being willing to feel it and then let it go makes it easier for them to let it go too. So step 1 is gratitude. Step 2 is to acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. Step 3, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Step 4 is to activate it. Now, I've found 3 different ways to take a concept and turn it into tangible physical reality. The first way to activate abundance is to schedule time to get it done. And I include journaling and meditation
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Now, journaling is super important to me because all these ideas are going through my head and all these thoughts, all these concerns, and I can't really get a handle on it until I can distance myself from it. And when I take the time to journal and write down what's going on, all of a sudden I can get this objective perspective on what's happening. So I find that incredibly valuable. The first option is to schedule time to get it done, including journaling and your spiritual practices. The second technique is to create a physical trigger like crossing your fingers or tugging on your earlobe as a reminder. I want to feel what other people are feeling. I'm willing to take that on and share that burden. It helps me be more alive. So I really appreciate my own life and my own situation. And I can release that energy more easily, empowering them to release the energy too. So they heal that much faster because I'm willing to do that. So I'm going to cross my fingers before I start a conversation as a reminder, this is how I choose to show up. And this is really important to me. And so this is a part of who I am being in the moment. That's the second way I can activate abundance. The third way to activate abundance is what I call an abundance buddy. Most people call them accountability buddies, but it's somebody
Okay.
who gets you and really knows what you're all about. And they are willing to call you on it when you're not in integrity with what you said you wanted to do. Like they're really struggling and they feel like you're not there with them and honoring their experience. They feel comfortable in saying, hey, I need you to be here with me right now. And then you have the opportunity to recommit to how you choose to show up. So those are the 3 different ways that we activate abundance. And then step 5 is celebrate your progress. This is a joyous unfolding of your beautiful life. And you are the abundance you're looking for.
Oh,
You are
absolutely.
that energy that creates everything you want to experience in your life.
I totally agree. I think that it's so often people, when you're talking abundance, everybody's first thought goes to money, usually. But I have found that, especially when working with people who are down and out and having trouble, I have found that if I can make them laugh, then they can heal.
Yes.
And I am blessed with a sense of humor. So so that it's very easy for me to get a chuckle out of somebody. Um, and so especially when I was serving in the pulpit, I told everybody I will not preach to you, but I will share for you the stupidity that I have had in learning my lessons so that you will not repeat my lessons but find your own. And I found if I could get a belly laugh out of the congregation, I had made my point. So when there's an abundance of laughter, when there's humor, when there's joy, it doesn't have to be because you're rich and you got, all of this stuff, because the reality is you have magic inside of you. And all you have to do is journaling, meditation. The journaling especially. I talk to everybody about journaling because it's so important. It starts the trickle of a what could be a tsunami of wisdom and magic and happiness and joy. And I mean, I don't have a lot of money, but I have enough.
Yeah, and the biggest mistake people make is they think it's the stuff. They think
Yeah.
it's the big car, the big house, lots of money in the bank. And in reality, whatever you want in your life, whether it's a relationship, an incredible job, to win the lottery, whatever it is, the only reason you want it is because you think it will make you feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
So instead of waiting and postponing feeling good about yourself now, what you
Mhm.
can do is think about whatever that thing is that you want to experience. You want to go on a luxury vacation? Great. Imagine yourself on that luxury vacation right now. Look at photos of all the places that you want to go. Watch documentaries. Write down the favorite things that you're going to see. Put together an itinerary and walk yourself through the itinerary. Feel it now in your body. Because what happens is we're so eager for that luxury vacation, and our fixation
Yeah.
is, but I don't have it now. I want it, but I can't have it. I want it, but I can't have it. I want it, but I can't have it. And so you're pushing it further and further away. By practicing and feeling it now, you get the energy in your body so that it doesn't feel strange. It doesn't feel bizarre. It doesn't feel out of bounds to you anymore. It feels kind of normal. It feels kind of like, well, yeah, I've been there. I've seen the photos 20 million times.
Well,
It feels like I've been there.
this goes
Yeah.
back to what you said before, because we do create our reality by our perception of it. And somebody said to me the other day, don't you ever have a downtime? You always seem to have such a positive attitude. And yeah, sure, but it's only for a moment till I find a good reason to be thankful. So it's not a natural thing for me. I happily work doing the spiritual work has gotten it just makes you feel so joyful that you don't have those down drudgery type moments. Of course,
Yeah, I
if I
want to share another story with you because I think it's really relevant to our
sure.
conversation. And it comes from a book called The Magic of Surrender by Kute Blackson, Kute Blackson.
Mhm.
And Kute's dad is known or was known as the miracle minister. They were originally from Ghana in Africa, and then they moved to London, England, and he had hundreds of churches. And every time the miracle minister would pray and go to church and pray, people were healed of cancer, people who were paralyzed could
Wow.
walk. I mean, just extreme miracles. And Kute grew up in the church. He saw this all the time. It was old news. And as an adult, he sat down with his dad and he said, Dad, would you tell me about one of the miracles that you witnessed recently? And his dad said, Sure. I was in London and I got a call that the king of Ghana was in London and he'd had a stroke and half of his body was paralyzed. And his wife asked me to come to their home to pray for the king's complete recovery. So I'm in the bedroom with the king and his wife, the queen, and we're praying for his complete recovery. And I get an image of tomato juice. So I asked his wife, Do you happen to have any tomato juice in the house? And she said, Yeah, I think so. Should I get some? He said, Yeah, that'd be good. So they watched the king drink this little glass of tomato juice and they heard these loud cracks and pops. And all of a sudden, the king jumped out of bed and he was fine. He wasn't paralyzed anymore. And
Wow.
Coot said, Wow, Dad, what did you do? And the miracle minister said, Well, God healed the king. That part wasn't me. What I did was I stopped having to understand first. I stopped having to understand the cause and effect and how everything works. And I stopped doubting. I get a message, I share the message, and then the miracle can happen. So we get messages all the time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
often we get a message and we think, well, that's so irrelevant. That's that's so random. I'm not going to talk about that. People will think I'm nuts. But
Yeah.
you know what? Share the message that came through because you don't know what that might spark for somebody else. The idea, the image might bring something really valuable to them. And all of a sudden, the miracle is made possible because you were willing to share.
Well, it's sort of like Tinkerbell, too. If you believe it can happen, it happens.
Yes, that was one of the messages I got during my stroke. Whatever you believe is true
Yeah,
for you, not for anybody else, just for you.
that's true.
So be very aware of your beliefs and choose wisely.
Yeah, and I think just to slip in here because it has to do with your life. You don't suddenly take on the responsibility of changing someone else's pathway because that never works. It just doesn't work.
You can't force feed stuff on people, and yet you are incredibly powerful. And I would love to share with you just how powerful you are.
Okay.
It comes from a book called Connected. Brilliant book, super long subheadline, The Surprising Power of Our Social Networks and How They Shape Our Lives. Just remember Connected. It's much easier to
Yeah,
remember.
okay.
And it's written by two genius scientists who work at the university level. They're social scientists. And they were really curious about this whole 6 degrees of separation thing. So they
Oh,
got a whole bunch of grad students together and did a massive study. And they developed something called the 3 degrees of influence rule. It turns out that you have influence over your friends, 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 3 levels away
yeah.
from you. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. I wonder how many people that is. So I asked Dr. Google, and she came back with a recently published article in New York Times citing research that says the average American knows about 600 people. And I was like, what? There's not a way in the world I know 600 people. And I
Well,
spoke to two
probably,
friends of mine who know a lot. And they
yeah.
said, oh, that's really low. You know, closer to 1,000 people. I was like, okay, whoa, time out. I didn't do the math. The researchers did the math. Let's just pretend that's the right number. So if you imagine a bullseye where you're at the center of the bullseye, that first ring around you is the 600 people that you know. Well, every single one of those 600 people knows 600 people. That's 360,000 people in your second ring. And every single one of them knows 600 people. That's 217 million people in your third ring. So, according to these social scientists, everything you think, feel, say, and do ripples out to 217,360,600 people. You being your best self is the most powerful thing you can do for the planet. Now, that's not the freaky part. Here's where it gets freaky because they wanted to see how much impact do you actually have. Well, it turns out when you're having a great day, those 600 people in your first ring are 15% more likely to have a great day just because you're having a great day. And the 360,000 people in your second ring are 10% more likely to have a great day. The 217 million people you're convinced that there's not a way in the world you have an impact. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you do. 6% more likely to have a great day just because you're having a great day. And, if you're not having a great day, don't worry about it. It's kind of like dodgeball. Nobody wants it. They're going to duck and weave around it.
Yeah.
Just remember how connected you are. You're connected to Barbara. You're connected to me. We are almost always having a great day. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
can feel our energy and pull yourself back up to that higher vibration because we are connected more than
Oh,
you can
yeah.
imagine.
Well, it's the same thing with a drop of water creates a ripple, creates a swell, creates a wave, creates a tsunami. I mean, it does work, and it's just it's fascinating to watch it. It really is. And I think so many people feel today stuck. And it's sort of like it's so easy to get unstuck. And is it
Yeah.
work? Nah. It's journaling. It's putting your thoughts down. It's getting inspiration, creating that pathway to the higher consciousness, the spirit that's inside. And it doesn't take forever. It comes really fast. Meditating, use empty-headed meditation if you want to. I mean, that's the easiest kind. If you can keep your mind quiet for 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 15, you've meditated. You just, have to let go of the riffraff that comes, barreling through your grocery list, your chore list, your whatever. I don't make lists anymore because I just, a list is what it sort of holds me down and holds me back, at least for me. Some people use lists and they work really, really well. They don't for me. When something feels like it's important, I'll do it. But until it's really important, it's going to sit there and wait for my attention. But, I just, when you think of the tools that we have that we can utilize, and being grateful is definitely another big one for me, for people to realize how grateful they are. I mean, I used to tell people, if you really want to, you don't have anything you can think of to write in your journal every night, you have to write 5 things you're grateful for. And here's where, people say, well, that's easy. And I then say, well, I didn't finish. You can't repeat.
Ooh, that gets tricky.
That
Yeah.
takes you from sunsets to sundown, to sunrises, to what else happened? What else in my life can I be grateful for? It's not a piece of cake after the first week. It gets more and more difficult, but you can fill an entire journal with things you're grateful for and then go back and look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and one of the things I love to do, Barbara, I like to experience gratitude in advance. I call it celebrating in advance. So
Okay.
I write down things that I'm grateful for that have already happened, and then I write down things I'm grateful for that are going to happen today. And for example, sometimes I'll say, I'm really excited that I will hear from 2 mentors today. And then I'll go to the grocery store and 2 total strangers are in front of me in line and they're having a conversation and I don't even really know what they're talking about, but something they say sparks the idea in me and they were my mentors. It can show
Yeah.
up. It's kind of like calling your shots when you're playing pool,
Oh, yeah.
4 in the corner pocket.
I mean,
I'm calling my gratitudes and
I
it
mean,
comes in.
if you really wanna feel gratitude, I love doing this in the grocery store. I I look for someone who's alone and shopping. And as I cross by them, I compliment them on something, the color of what they're wearing, their hair, whatever. And as you go by, you feel the radiation coming at you that you made their day. And these random acts of kindness are so much fun because you never know where you're going to find the opportunity to utilize it. But it's such fun, and you make somebody happy. I
Yes,
mean,
you
and
do.
and you
And
didn't do anything but give them something to hold on to.
well, one of the things I love to do is acknowledge someone for something and appreciate the difference it means to me, what it makes
Mhm.
for me. Because when I do that, I'm fully present for them and they really feel seen and heard and valued. So that acknowledge and appreciate
Yeah.
is presence and it's divine presence. It's so
Yeah.
interesting. We put out into the universe what gets reflected back to us. And one of the things that I've started doing often before I get on a meeting like this, I will say, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed. And I get that energy going in my body because that's what I'm putting into the mirror of the universe. And
Yeah.
then I get to have this incredible incredible conversation with you. And of course, there's more for me to be happy about and grateful for and blessed by, just because I had put that energy out there to begin with.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, a lot of people who watch this are going to say, well, they both work in the spiritual field. So, of course, this is very easy for them. And, I have a job and I have children and I have chores and I have credit card debt and I have all of these other things. And, credit card debt is a wonderful thing because it challenges you to do things differently and to find different ways of celebrating. Um, I mean, I there have been in my life, and it's a long one. There have been years where I didn't have money for Christmas presents, so I made them. And then there have been other times where I wanted to be able to give someone a part of me, so I looked for something that had history for me, and I was sharing it with them. And there are times when the greatest gift, the totally absolute greatest gift you can give another person is your time because it's limited.
Absolutely.
It's limited.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
It's really interesting. A lot of people don't think about this, but money is the energy of gratitude. Money is the energy of gratitude. So when you're paying your bills, remind yourself, I'm really grateful that the electricity is working. Because there have been
yes.
times when it's not working. And boy, that is not fun. It's really nice to have electricity working. So I'm so grateful for this. And then send the bill in, pay the bill, and just send love and gratitude to everyone at the electric company, to everyone involved. Just
Mhm.
send it. You will feel an incredible wave of energy. And I also want to point out something else that was published in the book Power versus Force. And the author, David Hawkins, he talks about when you commit to love, I'm going to be love, I'm going to see love, I'm going to experience life as love, I'm going to commit to being love. As soon as you commit to it, the opposite shows up. Why? Because you are continually reminded to recommit, recommit, recommit. And that's really one of the advantages of being in this spiritual space. We know we have the opportunity to recommit, and we recommit to what is truly most important to us, the intention we have of being grateful for every moment and finding the blessings in every moment and sharing those blessings with others so they realize what a blessing they are.
Oh, yeah, and a long time ago, before we had internet banking, um, I got a whole bunch of heart stickers, and I put them all over my checks when I paid my bill. I put them over the envelopes. I got calls from everybody I sent a check to, and it was like, "Did a child get, turn birthday?" And it was, "No, I'm just sending you love."
That's great.
But
That's wonderful.
you can do silly things that lighten the load incredibly. But
Yeah.
but but ag but back to the time, because if you can listen to someone who's having a tough time and not turn around and say, "Well, when I did this and this and this," if you can make it all 100% about them, you have given them, and not giving them advice, just listening and being compassionate. You've given
Yeah.
them the greatest gift you could possibly give them.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I am in the country and I walk almost every morning, and there are no sidewalks here. So as soon as a car is coming, I with a girlfriend, we step to the side of the road and I always wave to my neighbors, sending them off to school or work with love and
Yeah.
blessings. It's just my habit. That's what I do. And a few days ago, I waved at the car and I can't even really see through the windshield to see who it is because the light reflects just so. I felt this intense wave of love and appreciation for everyone in the car, just this overwhelming sensation of love. And I felt pushback immediately from the people in the car saying, how can you love me when you don't even know me? And something spoke through me back to them that said, I must love you before I can know you.
Yeah.
And we forget sometimes that love comes first.
We do. And I think that there is so many people, their definition of love is so different. And I mean, it goes from love to sex. It goes to then compassion, to gratefulness, to tenderness, to and it's so when you say love to someone, you know what you mean. It comes from my heart. There's a sense of love that is not sexual. It's just love.
Mhm.
And but that person may be hearing something completely different too. So there's so many faces of love that today, you have to be careful too about what you're sending out.
It's interesting because I came back home after that walk and I journaled about it. I wanted to delve into it some more, and I had some questions for the divine, and I was shown 4 layers of love. And the first layer of love is spiritual love. It is this awareness that everything is needed in the universe. Hot needs cold, up needs down, in needs out. You can't have one without the other. It's just we need all of it. And
Yeah.
so even the person who pushes your buttons the most, that you find the most irritating, they are needed for you to know who you are. So there is this spiritual connection that we have, that we truly do need each other. And so when we can accept that I can't exist unless the opposite is present too,
Hmm.
then I can be more comfortable with it and I can acknowledge the value of the opposites and the contrast. So that's spiritual love. Then comes more of what I call an emotional love, and it's inside me. And this is where I get into this state of grateful curiosity. I don't know what's here for me right now. For some reason, I'm feeling some resistance, or you pushed my buttons and something's going on, and I can accept that this is something apparently I need for my spiritual growth.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to know what it is. So I step into this grateful curiosity, present and open and wondering what this could be. I'm willing to receive it. Then comes more of an intellectual love. And this is where I see the contrast. I see a role model. I see maybe it's a danger warning. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you could end up like that. You don't want
I
to
know.
do that. So there's all different kinds of meaning, and my mind is really good at making meaning out of it. So this is the opportunity for that mental kind of love. And then ultimately it comes back to a physical expression of love where I acknowledge and appreciate the role that you are playing in creating me.
Cool. The the other thing too, when somebody tries to push my buttons, the first thing that comes into my head is, back up, Barbara. Remember, the universe wouldn't be complete without them. So they
So
serve a
true.
purpose. You know?
They do. They do. And they get us to recommit to who we
Oh yeah.
really choose to be. Do we choose to come from our higher selves, or do we choose to get defensive? And, life is chaotic, life is confusing. And it's really nice to feel like you finally figured some part of it out. And so I'm right about this, and I don't have to think about it anymore because I'm right. And I know I'm right. And it works. And it works for me. So I don't want to think
Yeah.
about it anymore. And yet we dig ourselves into a pit if we aren't willing to see other sides, other perspectives. We don't know what we don't know. Like I was saying earlier, this is the ultimate infomercial. But wait,
Oh yeah.
there's more, and it's even better. So
That's
why not be open to receive it?
that's true. I have a friend who's older than me, and keep saying, well, we're going to die soon. And I finally said, I'd rather focus on the life of now because after I cross over, I'm going to be very busy. So,
Yes, you are. And it's so funny because one of the many blessings with having had that stroke and that conversation with the divine, I have absolutely no fear of death and dying because I know it's a graduation. It's
yeah,
not an ending, not by any stretch of the imagination. And yes, you will be really busy. It was funny. The closest analogy I could come up with was the difference between kindergarten and first grade. When I was in kindergarten, we had nap time. When I
yeah,
went to first grade, no more nap time. When you're physical, you have a body. When you're not physical, you don't have a body, but you're still doing stuff and it's really cool and you're busy and you're having a blast. And yes, you can communicate with people who are here
oh,
on
yeah,
earth. It's so interesting. After my father-in-law passed, it was the first time I noticed bluebirds in my neighborhood. And I'd go walking and this bluebird would hop alongside until it got my attention, then would fly overhead. Bluebird of happiness. Hey, honey, I'm here. I'm doing fine. Have a great day.
yeah.
And then when my dad passed, he always worried about me merging onto the freeway. So I always look, I'm always really careful, and he clears space for me to get on the freeway every single time
Whoa,
without fail. And so I'm always like, hey, thanks, Dad. Really appreciate that. Love you, miss you. And I get signs from my mother and my mother in law. They are with us and they are sending us
oh,
love and
yeah.
blessings all the time. We just have to be willing to receive it.
That's, I think, and again, believe it. If you believe it, it's true. And so I know when my husband, my last husband died, I've been blessed with a lot of experiences here. Um, I kept saying to him, I don't counsel anybody if I haven't had the experience of their situation, because I then am not. I have to have a frame of reference. And when he was in the bed dying, he said, "Well, look at it this way. Now you can counsel people who have lost their spouse." And I looked at him and I said, "Very generous of you to do this for me, but I'd rather not have that experience." And he said, "I think we're too far gone for that." And and we were, but it was really cool after he did pass away. I took everything off the bed and I washed everything. And when I went to remake the bed, there was a penny in the middle of the bed. And yeah, and it was like, I got it. You're okay. Silver dollar would have been better.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Really interesting.
They do make themselves known. I had another friend who passed, and I can remember we were going to some little village for something, and when we got out of the car, we were surrounded with milkweed. The pods that burst, and everywhere we went, when we went into a store, they stopped. When we came out, we were surrounded by the milkweed. And after he died, it's the weirdest thing. I mean, even when it's not in season, there have been moments when I've been surrounded by milkweed and know that, he was sending a message and, you know, telegram would have been better.
Yeah, it was really funny. I was a kid and reading a book on the couch, and my mom was vacuuming. And all of a sudden, she turned off the vacuum and she raced over to me and she said, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "Well, what are you referring to? The vacuum was kind of loud. What did you hear?" And she said, "I could have sworn I heard my grandma say, 'Hey, Margie, how's it going?'" I said, "Oh, fine, Grandma. How are you?" And she said, "I'm just fine. Just wanted to see if I could do it." And then she left. And my mom was just like, oh. But
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, they will communicate with us. And usually it's when we're very relaxed and a little
Yeah.
distracted and just daydreaming a little bit. And, it's nothing particular. We're just kind of letting the thoughts flow. And then somehow they can break in and get our attention and have that conversation.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's
Well,
pretty exciting how it all works.
no, my last late husband was a biblical scholar. He had a photographic memory. And there are lots of times that I've interviewed authors who had a biblical background that was just phenomenal. And every now and then I'll get a message that I don't know where it comes from, and I'll say it, and whoever I'm talking to will say, "Well, yeah, where did you ever read that?" And I said, "I have no idea, no idea." And I know it's Patrick because he kept saying to me, "You have to know everything I know," and looked at him and said, "So long as you know it, I'm fine." You
Yep.
know, but we do get those insights, those messages, and again, situations where you journal it down, and the more things you have written down, the more likely you are to get more, and they don't have to be profound. They don't have to be earth-shattering. They can be, "I thought of Gladys and she called," or, "I got a parking place where I didn't expect to," or, um, they happen so frequently if you're if you're welcoming of them. And I know when it started with me, it was, I wanted to be in a spiritual development class in a spiritualist church, and I was told the class was closed, that I could be on the waiting list for, the next year or whatever, and I put myself on the waiting list. We had a storm, we were out of power, we had no anything. The phone rang, and it was the church saying someone had dropped out. They had room for me for the next day. And I hung up the phone, and I picked up the phone to call my mother and tell her, and we had no phone.
Yep. It's really interesting. But when God wants to have a conversation with you,
Oh,
God will have
yeah.
a conversation with you. That was kind of what I experienced with my stroke because it was on New Year's Day, 2005, and I was actually on vacation in New Zealand. And we'd had breakfast. We were wandering around in and out of stores. And all of a sudden, I got tunnel vision with sparkles around the edges. And then my right arm went numb and my right side of my face went numb. So my husband walked me to a little medical center. They gave me an aspirin and asked me to describe what was on a poster on the wall. And I knew what they said and I knew what the poster was, but the words that came out of my mouth made no sense. Now, I felt fabulous. I felt awesome. Like a really lazy Saturday when I could just hit the sleep alarm and roll over. I
Yeah.
just wanted to take a nap. And so finally, after they did all these different tests, I said, "Look, I'm tired. Is it okay if I take a nap?" And they said, "Sure." And as soon as I relaxed, I felt like I was in this incredible cloud and I was a part of it and it was part of me. And then I felt this cloud say, "This is perfect." And of course, I grew up to be an appropriate young lady where we don't toot our
Yeah.
own horn. And so I immediately said, "Are you kidding? I don't speak multiple languages. I haven't solved world hunger. I haven't climbed Mount Everest. I am definitely not all that." And I heard back, "Oh, you don't understand how it works. See, you're designed with your skills, your abilities, your talents, your interests, your preferences, and your issues, your hot buttons, your faults, your foibles, your challenges. And we put all of that together to create exactly what is needed right now. You are perfect because of your imperfections." And I was like, "Whoa, Toto, we are not in Kansas anymore."
No.
And the conversation started. And when I came out of the stroke, there was absolutely no damage because when
Wow.
God wants to have a conversation with you, God will have a conversation with you.
Oh, absolutely. We did shows on near-death experience, and we had a young girl who had committed suicide or tried to. And she was a very unhappy person, and she was, miserable, and her when her mother heard I was gonna do a show on near-death experiences, she asked her daughter if she changed her name, if she would talk to me, and she said yes, and it was one of the coolest interviews because she said, "You have to understand, I left my body and I started to soar." And, I went, "Wow." And she said, "No, you don't understand. I wasn't supported by love. I wasn't guided by love. I wasn't drawn forward by love." She said, "I was love." And she said, "They sent me back to remind me that I am love and that I should do something with my life." And, I thought that was the most beautiful thing ever. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. I mean, when the universe talks to you, I sometimes um, envision whoever is guiding me as a boardroom, and they help me make choices and decisions, and they filter things to me, and every now and then things will be going along so well, I'll say, got it from here, I know where you want me, I'll take it from here, you know and immediately I will hear a door slam, and it's like, after a while, I said, "Well, what's that noise?" And a voice said, "They're going to play golf until you really have screwed up, and then they'll be back to help you get out."
Get a little too big for your britches there, Barbara.
And every time I think I know exactly what the universe wants, I wait for the call, and I people will say to me, "We haven't done anything new or whatever," and I say, "I'm waiting for the call." If I try to call, it'll be a wrong number for sure. But but if I wait for the call, and a while back, one of the things that I kept stressing for people was that if your life isn't moving along as fast as you want, get creative. Get more creative than you are now. Even if you are really creative, if you're paid for your creativity, you can't double dip. So things that are done that are creative for the sheer joy of creation are what they're looking for. But I hadn't realized that quite yet, and I thought when I realized, that that, um, creativity was definitely, a channel to spirituality, I thought, "I have it made. I teach school. I do crafts with my kids every day. I have it made. I must have a bankroll of stuff," and I noticed that nothing was happening in my life, and it was like, "Wait a minute, I'm doing all this creative stuff. Why is life not moving forward?" And the message I got was totally spiritual. You can't double dip. And, and I thought, oh, you mean I have to do creativity for the sheer joy of it?
Well, it's really interesting. When I chat with my clients about what they want, usually the first thing is the revenue. Show
Yeah.
me the money, and yesterday would be really good.
Yeah.
I want the money, baby. Revenue all the way. And once the revenue's there, my reputation is going to be made. I'll have people lined up around the block to order from me. Everybody's going to know who I am. And once my reputation's there, I will have relationships with people I've admired for years. Me and Barbara DeLong, BFFs, baby.
Yeah.
And then I push them. I'm like, okay, so what else would you want? What else would be incredible? What else would really light you up? And it takes them a while to figure it out. But eventually they go, well, I can't have it right now. I have to earn it. But someday
Oh,
I'll create a rewarding experience just by being who I am. I'll be my real authentic self and I'll make a difference for other people. And it won't happen all the time. And I have to earn it. But someday I'll get to create a rewarding experience. Well, that's
oof.
entirely backwards because
Yeah.
you are a rewarding experience and everything you do creates value for other people. Sometimes they understand it, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And the better you are at communicating the value, the better things go for you. So it starts with a rewarding experience. And that's why you have relationships. People want a rewarding experience, they're looking for you. So, of course, they're going to have a relationship with you. You control your standards, you don't control your reputation. Your relationships will tell the rest of the world who you are being for them. And
Yes.
when those three things are in place, the rewarding experience, the relationships, the reputation, revenue is an unavoidable byproduct of those three things. It is not the focus. It is not what shows up immediately. Why? Because money is the energy of gratitude.
Yeah. And the thing is too with money, frankly, I am fine with not being rich because if you're rich, you worry about keeping your money. If you don't have any, you have nothing to worry about. You know, I'm great day to day. Am I going around the world next week? No, and I don't want to. But 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 it's a matter of, I think that when people put money as a goal, they're mistaking the fact that they have the richness inside of them already. Money does not indicate how intelligent you are or how wise you are or how compassionate or anything. It doesn't tell you anything. And it's like Scrooge McDuck. You can't take a bath in it. There's no point to it. So, I learned a long time ago that's not what you focus on. You focus on, you know,
It's
what
about the internal riches.
yeah.
It's not about the external riches. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world.
I
So
mean,
the
I
more
yeah.
you celebrate your life, the more you celebrate others in your life, the more
Mhm.
gratitude you experience for little things in your life. The little things are actually the big things. The
Oh
little things
gosh,
are
yeah.
what create the big things. And
Oh,
we think, well, I
yeah.
can't be happy until I have that New York Times bestseller. Not so. You can be happy right now.
Well, I tell people I am very rich. I just don't have any money. And I'm grateful for that because if I had it, I'd lose it, you know, probably. I'd give it away. It's that ASPCA commercial gets me every time. I can't tell you how many times I've, donated to ASPCA because of those animals. And if I could take them all home, I would. But life is an amazing adventure, and it doesn't slow down as you get older. It gets better. And so, at 40, I celebrated, 40, and at 50, it was like, well, life got so much better. And it's 60, and it's 70, and now at 80, I can't imagine what 90 is going to have. But, it's funny. The guy that does my tech work for me, um, he said, now, how do you do what you're doing here with all of this stuff you're doing? And he said, you say, I'd like to do something, and it happens. And it's, he said, you don't say, I'd like to try to. You say, I am doing this. And I mean, he's seen people call. We were talking about the man that does my intro, Ken Quiet Hawk. Um, he did the intro almost 20 years ago. And he said, do you think he'd record it again? And I said, I don't know. I think he may have passed. And the next day, I got a text from Ken Quiethawk. He was not.
Perfect.
He was not dead. But
That is perfect. And you know what's happening, Barbara? You're acknowledging your power. You
oh
don't know
yeah,
exactly how things are going to show up. You just acknowledge this is what I choose to create in my life. And then you do take action. You're doing other things and you're making space for the things that you want to experience to show up for you. That's brilliant. Congratulations. And thank you for being such an incredible
oh it
role model
works.
for all of us.
Ah, well, it took me 80 years to get here. At 40, I wasn't as tuned in as I am now, and so your book just resonated so beautifully. And I love the fact that you gave little exercises after each section, which was a wonderful thing, so people can go back and check things out. And is there a workbook that could go along with this aside from the book? Or
There could be, but actually, what there is a group coaching program that I'm offering that's a 6 week experience where you get to go through the abundance journey and all the details of exactly how it works. So you get to experience it in a group setting. So, yeah, it's exciting and it's fun. And this is what life is all about, is to savor and enjoy the journey. I call
oh
it
my
the
gosh,
abundance journey because it's really an analogy for your life. Your life is a journey of continually unfolding abundance. And when you
And magic.
understand
Yeah.
how it works, it's a whole lot more fun than trying to do it blind.
It is, but even knowing, even being told that magic happens, and when you see it happening and you know how to make it happen, something frequently gets in the way and you have to remind yourself. So in a group, that's a perfect way to do this, because then you have that group energy to work with as well.
Yeah.
And that brings the laughter and joy into it. I know that you know after reading the book, I kept saying, I have to remember that. I have to remember that. Oh, the one thing, the one thing that horrified me was attention span.
Uh-huh.
Horrified me.
Yeah, yeah, and she's quoting some research that I came across that says the average human being now has a shorter attention span than a goldfish, and a goldfish starts life brand new every 8 seconds. So
Well,
it's because we're bombarded by all these different messages and texts coming in, and emails, and social media, and all the stuff we're trying to get done, and the phones ringing off the hook, and the you know, trying to multitask really doesn't work. And so being able to focus on what you choose to create makes a big, big difference. You're more powerful than you realize.
oh gosh, yeah. And like I said, you create your reality by your perception of it. You can see thunder and lightning and you can get scared, or you can say, isn't that magical? I mean, I love thunder and lightning storms. For some reason, the
I do too.
electricity the electricity in the air is so amazing. My neighbor and I, thunder and lightning storms were out on our back patios, you know, and it's just if you see life as magical, it becomes magical. If you see it as, oh my God, it's another week of this, or it doesn't it takes you down.
It
And
does.
but you have the power to get out of that kind of a mindset, that kind of like, well, like I told you, I had been doing these shows on Blog Talk Radio for 15 years, and I knew it inside out. I was a tech. I was an expert, let me tell you. And suddenly they're going out of business and I had to move everything. And it was sort of like, and I heard it in my head, when a groove becomes a rut, you need to do something. And so when somebody says I'm really grooving, my statement is, be careful, that can become a rut. And it's hard to get out of those things. And I thought everything was going along just fine. And it was.
And you're guided. You are
Oh yeah.
continually guided. And often it's situations like that that your first reaction is, what a hassle. I don't want to have to deal with this. It's something new for me to learn. You're kidding me, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the divine gently nudging you in a different direction because they know there are incredible opportunities awaiting you. So when you can instead step into this situation with grateful curiosity and wonder, and
Oh
then
yeah.
all of a sudden things start to happen and start to open up, and it's more than you could ever have imagined for yourself.
Well, I tell people, when a door opens, go through it, unless it's illegal or against your moral fabric, and leave it open a crack. You can always back out. But if you don't have the experience of trying, you'll never know. And I'm still um squirming at having to comb my hair and all of that to be able to be on camera, but it's sort of like, okay, it's the next step. But yeah, and Lord knows what the next step is, but I'm going to be make a note to myself someplace, don't get too comfortable. It has to change eventually. And it does. And so, as you learn, as you grow, as you expand your expertise, as I mean, doing these shows means I read at least a book a week. And yeah, and what, 1100 shows, that's a lot of books.
Yeah.
And and yet I tell people often that this show has become my PhD. I already
Yes,
have 2 masters, but the show is now my PhD. And when people talk about, I couldn't go to college, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. There's nothing stopping you from learning now.
absolutely. There is so much wisdom everywhere. And part of what I love is when I read a book and it references other books. I read 4 or 5 books a week. I eat them like
Ah,
popcorn. It's how I relax. And I read very quickly. I get annoyed when the characters are speaking too fast. And it's just me. It's me moving my eyes too fast. I'm like, dang, I need to slow these people down. But yeah, there's so many blessings. There's so much richness in
oh, yeah,
books and available online. Check out
absolutely,
YouTube. You can find some amazing videos on YouTube, some access to people that you'd never get access to any other way. It
absolutely.
is so amazing to live in this century of Google. This is above and beyond. What was the famous library that burned in the big
Alexandria.
Alexandria? This is better than the Alexandria Library. I mean, seriously, you've got it at
Oh,
your
yeah.
fingertips. You got it on your cell phone. It's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. I know I, interviewed, James Tabor. He's written a number of books on biblical stuff, and we had a glitch, and we had to reschedule, and I said, "Well, you've got another book here. I'll read that book for the next show too." And then we had to reschedule yet again. And so I said, "Well, what else do you have?" And he said, "I just have my PhD thesis. It's probably too heavy for you." And I said, "No, what's it on?" And he said, "Barb, it gets into metaphysics." And I said, "Have you checked out my website?" And so I read his PhD thesis, and then we did the show. But it was, it's the kind of doors will open for you in places you wouldn't expect. And I'm talking, about, doing a radio podcast and having authors on and stuff. But in any area of life, if you give it a chance, it will make magic happen for you, whether you're a struggling artist or whatever. There's magic there if you open yourself to it. And it can be a notice on a bulletin board in the grocery store. It can be a class, an adult ed class at night school. It can be, I mean, take a class in anything, and you expand your awareness. I'm tempted on occasion to take an adult ed class in bridge, but my mother and grandmother would groan if I did that. I know they, I have that's not my area of expertise, but there's so many things out there, and there are so many things you can do that do not cost money. They cost time. And
Yeah.
if you will give the time to it, you will grow exponentially.
Yes. And really focus on how you're growing and what you're learning. It's a combination of things because you're continually expanding your skills. So the first thing I have my clients do is define what it is they want. And
Mhm.
then they have to go into detail about why that's important. And I drill down like 7 levels, so why is that important? And then why is that important? Then go down another, why is that important? 7 levels down. Why is it important? Because truly you want to get to that core, and it's always about who you are being. Ultimately, what you want to
Yeah,
learn, what you want to accomplish, what you want to achieve. It's because I have to be this in order to experience that. And it's really interesting working with people and helping them see I can be that right now. And as I am that, I'm living into and ultimately creating what
yeah.
I choose to experience because I do experience it now through who I am being. And I know it might sound a little convoluted, but you are much more powerful than you realize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just you can it blows my mind that people feel so helpless. And, I tell them, laugh your way out of it. Just, get to the point where you find joy in your life, and then life takes care of you.
Very true.
And,
Very true.
like I said before, we don't always have what we think we want, but we do have what we need. I'm coughing too.
I'm getting over a cold, and the only thing left is this little cough that doesn't happen all the time, but every once in a while, it just nails me.
Well, I'm
And
allergic to life. So pollen of any sort, just and now we've had rain here for a couple of days, so there's mold. I start out clear as a bell, and I end up talking like Lucille Ball after 20 packs of cigarettes. But I'm so I want people to understand that your book does help them. So
oh yeah,
it's a wonderful, wonderful book of help of guiding you through understanding of how you can bring abundance into your life. But it's up to you.
you have total control, and the book actually is in 3 different phases.
Yeah.
The first phase is about my stroke and the conversation I had with the divine, the questions I asked and the answers I was given. The middle part of the book is some of the additional downloads that I received. I continue to get downloads every day. The
Uh-huh.
divine is kind of chatty Cathy with me now because I've learned how to receive the messages. And so it's a very direct, collaborative conversation. And then the third part of the book are those 5 steps to activate abundance. And part of what I love about the 5 steps, I was shown while I was writing the book that they correspond with the 5 love languages. So as you are using the 5 steps, you are actually creating a lot of love for yourself as well as for everyone else involved.
And a really good point here that that until and unless you love yourself, you're not going to draw that into your life from another person. And when people say, I just attract jerks and I just attract this, it's sort of like, take a look at yourself and what do you think you're worthy of?
One of my favorite people is Marissa Peer, and she's brilliant. Check her out on YouTube. She's a therapist who works a lot with hypnosis to help people realize that they are enough. And she says,
Yeah.
there is one person in your life that you wish they would respect you. You wish they would acknowledge you. You would just give anything if this one person would admire you just once. That one person is the person you see in the mirror.
Yeah.
So stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself what a good person you are, how proud you are of who you are, of the courage it takes to be you every day, to show up with that conviction and that compassion and that dedication of being who you are and making a difference for other people in your life. Honor yourself.
Absolutely.
Love yourself. And you will be amazed at how much more love starts flowing your way and what you experience in your life. It just completely opens you up. Often I'll use the analogy of looking for shooting stars.
Oh, yeah.
And if you've ever looked for shooting stars, obviously it's a good idea to look up at the stars. Looking down doesn't really work. And you have to look at one area of the star field. But then you soften your gaze and you activate your peripheral vision so that any little stray bit of light grabs your attention and you actually see the shooting star. If you're fixated on just one area of the star field, you're going to miss a lot. But when you soften your gaze and you're more receptive, all of a sudden you see incredible shooting stars.
Oh, yeah. No, it's I think so many times people look outside of themselves for solutions and answers, and the reality is they're all inside. It's all there. And I think that's what freaks me out sometimes when people go for therapy and stuff like that. It's not that therapy isn't a good idea sometimes. It is. It does help. But it's sort of like you are perfect as you are. And if you love yourself as you are, you'll find someone else that will love you as well. And um, sometimes it takes a while. I know at one point I was in my garden in Connecticut and I looked around at at all the flowers and everything, and it was like I just stood there and I looked up and I said, if this is all that my life is going to be from now on, I am so blissfully content. It's just magical. And I heard that boardroom. I heard them buzzing. And about 2 weeks later, I was doing my radio show. And I had a man on it that had written a book about UFOs, and I'd seen one, and it was in his book. And we had a lovely time talking. And there was somebody in the chat room that kept IMing me saying I'm an expert in this field and I have great credentials that I could add to the whatever. And I kept thinking, good for you, I have the author. And the author had to leave. And so I pulled this guy on. And it was Patrick Cook, who became my husband. And and so after we had a lovely time talking on the show. I thanked him. He sent me an email with his credentials to prove that he wasn't a crazy person. And we started talking, and that was in November. And the fall, and we continued talking a lot. And the following July, I flew out to San Francisco and drove with him and his 3 cats to move in with me in Connecticut.
Wow.
Now, our first date was driving across country for 6 days with 3 cats. I don't advise that. It everybody thought I was crazy, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world to me. But I remember hearing somebody say, "She's too complacent. We have to stir it up." And there was Patrick, and he stirred it up.
Perfect.
But yeah, it was. It was so magical. It was unbelievable. He died like 3 years later of cancer, but what we did in that 3 years was amazing and magical. We did a documentary, we did all sorts of stuff. But it's sort of like the universe really will work for you if you work with it.
Yes.
But you can't tell it what to give you.
No, it's very interesting. I was reading a book called A Happy Little Pocket Full of Money. A Happy Little Pocket Full of Money. And it's a spiritual book, and it's very interesting. And at one point in the book, the author is talking a lot about I am goals. So you say I am, and then whatever it is you want to experience, as if you're experiencing it now. I am whatever.
Yeah.
And it just intuitively, it felt right to me. And yet there was a part of me going, it'd be so nice if I could look at something in my life where I was using an I am goal and it actually worked. And then I got this blinding flash of the obvious. And I was reminded of a conversation that I had had with my then boyfriend, now husband. And it sounds something like this. Honey, I am so happy and grateful that I get to share life with you. I am more in love with you every single day. And I know it's not logical and I know it doesn't make sense. And sometimes I can't hear you, but when I can, you expand my world. I am so lucky that we met. I am so grateful that we get to spend time together. I just love you more than you can imagine. And we've been together for 45 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It is a long time. We met when I was 18 and 63 now. So
wow.
Yeah. Just a little while.
Yeah, the universe does have a way of doing strange things. My first love was when I was 17. And He was 19 and we were together 2 years, and it was magical. He was very Catholic, so it was a very pure relationship, and is the kind of relationship I would hope for any young girl to experience. I went to college, we broke up. Um, gosh, 3 years ago, I get an email, and it was from somebody whose name I didn't recognize, and I thought, "I don't know anybody by that name," and I thought I was curious. It was him. He'd been married 4 times, I'd been married 3, um, and so we found a wonderful intellectual communication after 60 years of not being in touch or knowing what the other person was doing. And every now and then I look at the universe and say, "Was this really necessary?"
And yet everything is there to enrich our lives if we let it
Oh,
enrich
absolutely.
us. And you're
Absolutely.
so good at that. And you're so good at sharing that with others through the stories and all the experiences that you've had. That is just phenomenal. Thank you.
Well, hey, it's, this one thing, with all the writing that you have here and everything, something that I wanna share that helped me, um, realize a lot of things about my life that I had not known. For Mother's Day, my daughter-in-law gave me, a subscription to Storyworth. They send you a question every week. You write the answer to it and send it back. You can put pictures with it. Things like, what do you remember most about your grandmother? What was your favorite toy as a child? What was your favorite? With me, we moved a lot, so my favorite toy was my sister, which surprised me when I got into it. What was your favorite television show as a child? When I was a child, there was no TV. But that took me into seeing, what were the first shows, and so I learned a lot about myself by answering these questions. And at the end of a year's time, they put it in a book, a hardcover book, and send it to you.
I love that idea.
The
What a great way
q-
to celebrate your life.
the
So
questions are
beautiful.
incredible. Um, what was the best? Oh, I know. What was the best lesson you ever learned, and from who? And the more I worked on it, the more I realized my best lessons have been my failures. But
Yeah.
but their questions are amazing. You get into relating stories of family that you never would have written down before.
Yeah.
And so it's called Storyworth, and it's
That is
online.
really cool.
It's online, and I will admit that during that 1 year, I cursed my daughter-in-law occasionally, and and at the end of the time when I had the bound book in my hand, I thanked her because I learned a lot about me, and I have all the old family pictures that I shoved in there too. So, it's not on Amazon, but but it was an experience that I learned so much from. And even if a question seems stupid, I did address it. And when I rolled up my sleeves, I learned more about me. So if
And it's a
anybody,
wonderful way to share about you with your family, things that they wouldn't think to ask you,
oh yeah,
and you wouldn't normally take the time to answer anyway. So what a blessing. That's
well,
really cool.
I learned about my family history because we had dinner with my grandmother every Sunday and we got bored out of our skulls listening to her tell family stories. But the generations today don't do that. So that, putting it, I've even thought seriously about going back and doing it again because there were some questions there that were a lot of fun to answer. And you talked about journaling, and I agree with journaling. This is a good way to start journaling because it's forcing you to write something about yourself that you never thought you would ever do. And then you have the book to remind yourself about all the magic that was in your life.
And you can create magic right now.
Oh
One of the
yeah.
things I love to do with my journaling is sit for guidance. So I will write the question, what does the divine want me to know today? And then I just wait until a message comes in and I start writing. And often it doesn't even make sense to me at first. It just seems really random. And I
Yeah.
just keep going and I'll say anything else. And then maybe a few more things come in, anything
Yeah.
else until I feel like there's nothing else. And then I go back and I read it out loud. And the information that comes through is amazing. It's just so profound. So you have access to things beyond our understanding. That was one of the things with having this incredible conversation with the divine during my stroke. Every time I asked a question, I got the answer in my body, past, present, future, colors we can't see, sounds we can't hear, concepts that are far beyond human language. So it's really challenging to explain some of the stuff. I say it's kind of like swallowing Google whole every time. All the likes, the shares, the images, the
Yeah.
videos, everything, the keyword terms, you name it, everything all at once. And I came out of the stroke with instructions that I had to share what I had learned with everyone else. And it took me a while. It's been 20 years since I had my stroke on New Year's Day 2005. And I'm so grateful that I was guided to write the book because that really helped encapsulate and clarify how this game of life actually works and our role in it. A lot of times people think I'm this lowly ant and God is up there in the heavens somewhere, smiting me occasionally, more of the time than not, blessing me very rarely. No, no, no. You are in partnership with the divine. You are an equal partner and extremely valuable to the divine. So when you understand how that collaboration works and how you can really do that give and take and understand where you're going, oh man, things just make a lot more sense. They seem less random and you really
Yeah.
witness the miracles coming to fruition.
I think one of the things that a lot of people, when I channel too, and people say, well, how do you know you're channeling who you're channeling? And the response that I get most often is, if the material that they're getting is telling them what to do and how to do it, they're not talking to spirit. If what they're getting is philosophical information that can be applied, that you can take action from, then you've got spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Very true.
every now and then somebody would send me something and say, well, I channeled this and it started out with, oh, star child, princess of the universe. And I thought, oh crap. And you know creative writing, yes. Channeling, no. um Channeling has a different feeling to it. It flows,
It does.
and it just sort of, it takes off and it writes itself.
Well,
If
it
you're
was like I was in dialogue with the divine to write my
Mhm.
book
Yeah.
because those 5 steps were given to me. That was not something that I came up with. And it was so interesting because it was very clear that gratitude had to be the beginning.
Mhm.
They made no bones about it. They're like, gratitude is the beginning of everything. That's the launch pad. If
Yeah.
you're not at gratitude, then you're not ready. It's just real
Yes.
clear.
And a long time ago, I created a deck of cards, the cosmic deck of initiation. I'm not an artist, but I painted the 52 cards, and
Wow, good for you.
they were all hand painted mandalas. And and I channeled the information that came from them. But I'm not an artist. Now, prior to that, I had done maybe, gosh, 300 or 400 personal mandalas that are all over the world. And I would get the person's name, I would channel the pattern, I would paint it. And I on my bio it says I'm an artist, only because if being an artist is having sold your artwork and made good money at it, then I'm an artist. But I can't paint a tree. I can't, nothing. But it the channeled material, it takes over. It flows. I mean, for almost 9 months, I would come home from teaching, sit down and paint until 4 in the morning, sleep 2 hours, get up and go and teach. I never had more energy in my entire life. I never missed a little league game. I never missed a day at work. I just, it was driven. It was, something that
And
had to be out there.
it's really funny. I will be in conversation with a client and a message will come through for my client. And often the divine will say, darling, we keep hoping that if we get the words to actually go through your mouth and you're present and you hear what we're saying through you, that maybe you will follow this advice too. It's not just for your client, it's really for you too. We want you to take this on.
Yeah.
So I'm becoming more and more present and witnessing often the things that come through. It doesn't feel like I'm the one speaking it. It feels I am being spoken.
Yeah. And, I found that the more attention I pay, I'm learning something from every reading I do. From every reading I do, something comes out of my mouth and it's like, I have to write that down. That was
That's
good.
good. Yeah.
That was really good. I I just noticed our time. We're really, really close to out. You want to put out there your email and where they can get your books and stuff like that?
Yes. Well, my book is available on Amazon. It's available as a paperback book, as an ebook, and also as an audiobook. I read the entire thing.
Oh,
So you can hear me in your ear, and that's always fun. You can get it
yeah.
on Amazon. All three versions are available on Amazon. And I'd love for you to visit my website, theabundancejourney.com.
It's a
Reach out
cool
to me
website.
there.
It's a cool website.
Yeah.
I checked out some of your YouTubes too, and they were really very empowering as well. So I want to thank you so much. This has been such fun, and we will be in touch.
Oh, thank you, Barbara. What a delight.
My pleasure. Good night now.